Okay guys, so the first thing we're going to do is safely jack up the car, place the jack stand under the passenger side. We'll be working on the right side or passenger side first, and remove the front wheel. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is remove the brakes, the brake caliper, the brake rotor, and set that aside out of the way. Now is also a good time to start spraying everything with some lubricant. Okay, now we're going to remove the sway bar link, the bracket, and the pinch bolt for the strut. The sway bar link attaches to the bracket with a 16 millimeter and we'll disconnect the arm that adjusts the headlights. That's a 10 millimeter socket and a 10 millimeter wrench. Now I also got brand new sway bar links, the Lemforder brand, for this car, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove the other end of the link from the sway bar. And I think it's safe to say those are pretty shot too. Okay, so we're also going to remove the bolt that holds the lower control arm to the chassis. It's that guy right there. Okay, so we're going to put an 18 millimeter wrench on the end and a 16 millimeter socket on our breaker bar. Now, just as a side note, if you're reusing your strut and you're just watching this video for replacing one of the wheel bearings, you're going to want to take a marker and make a mark here onto the strut tube with the steering knuckle for your alignment purposes. But since we're replacing this entire strut assembly anyway, I'm not going to be making any marks. Again, at this point, if you're using this video just to change out your wheel bearing, you now have full access to the 4 bolts that secure the wheel bearing to the steering knuckle. Let's pop the hood and remove the 3 nuts that secure the strut mount to the strut housing. And we'll remove these 3 13 millimeter nuts from the top of the strut. Now I'm using a wrench on this one over here. Alternatively, you can take this whole box out so you can fit a socket onto this guy. Okay, so let's take our 18 millimeter socket, our 1/2 inch drive impact gun, and we'll remove the 4 bolts that are securing the wheel bearing to the wheel hub. Alright guys, here's the new wheel bearing. It's a Timken brand. However, the cool thing about Timken is that this is actually an FAG, which is the original brand that BMW uses from the factory. And as always, I'll put a link in the description below where you can find this new wheel bearing online. Now, while all of this stuff is out and we have easy access to that upper control arm, that's this guy right here, I'm going to go ahead and remove it and replace it with the new one. I just zapped that guy off with a 22 millimeter. Now, to finish removing this from the hub, we're going to use this ball joint tool to apply pressure onto that stud and pop it out of the hub. I'll put a link in the description below where you can find all of these specialty tools. And once you remove the belly pan, you can also see that there's a plastic cover here, and there's 2 10 millimeter bolts we need to remove that will allow us access to the bolt for that control arm. Then we simply lift this up and back. And here's our control arm bushing, and this is the bolt that we need to remove. And both of these are 18mm. And we're also going to quickly remove part of this plastic ductwork for the brakes. Alright, now we're ready to reinstall the new control arm.